Hello, welcome to the channel. Today what we're going to talk about is vibe coding using GitHub Copilot and Claude Opus 4.6. So we're going to talk about some tips and tricks. Now, before we get too deep into this, just wanted to say I don't profess to be an expert in this area, but I am a big believer in learning by sharing. And so this is part of me going through this journey myself and then offering it up to others that might be interested as well. So I wanted to go ahead and check out some of the latest capabilities. We've seen a ton of news visibility around GitHub Copilot. We've definitely heard a lot about Claude and their various models, including the new one, Opus 4.6. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to take them for a test drive. Now, I wanted to build something that was useful for me and an area of exploration for me. So I decided to go ahead and take a look at building a Logic Apps OpsAgent. Now, this is what I've built. This is a web app. This part is a web app that's based upon TypeScript, and it's going to go ahead and use ARM SDK in order to go ahead and grab Logic App resources. And then I wanted to add an agentic layer on top of it, and that's where we have agent chat. So this is going to be actually a Foundry agent. This is a hosted agent inside of Foundry. I went ahead and built it using the Microsoft Agent framework. Now, I did vibe code that piece as well. Deployed it. I can go ahead and use it inside of the playground inside of Foundry, and then obviously outside. So I just wanted to give a very quick demo, and I'm going to create another video because I think this is worth going deeper into the details of this, because I'd love to see some other people take this idea and run with it and actually build some of their own experiences that help them manage and maintain Logic Apps as well. So let me just flip over and I'll show you a quick demo, and then in a subsequent video we'll do an even deeper dive. But I wanted to give some context into some of the learnings that I've had, just so you know that I didn't just go make those up or grab them off the web. So let's go ahead and check out the demo. Here we are in the web applications. We're going to go ahead and sign in with our corporate credentials. So we're now logged in. This left panel is going to use the ARM SDK to pull in resources. Now in this case I want to select the Logic App. You can favorite things like a Logic App or resource group, and in this case I want to select a particular workflow. Here what we do is we go ahead and read the workflow definition, and then we generate a mermaid diagram just on the fly. You can go ahead and take a look at the code, the underlying code, and then we'll take a look at the run history here. So here we've got some successes and some failures. Let's go ahead and investigate this particular run ID. That's going to put it in scope, and then we can go ahead and ask, why did this workflow fail? So this is going to call out to that agent that's running in Foundry. We're then going to call the MCP server that will go ahead and get us details, and then we'll take advantage of the large language model that's going to be able to make some sense of this particular error for us. Now we can go ahead and download this if we want. We can download it as Markdown, which is pretty cool, and we can also then ask it to make some recommendations for how best to fix it. So we could say how best to fix this, and it will then provide us some recommendations and hopefully give us some code snippets that we can go ahead and use, and that gets us on our way. Okay, so we've got a few different things here. What we can do is we can actually update the code, right? So that's part of the reason why we have this code window here, and wherever the cursor is, this will go ahead and place that code. So if we wanted to go ahead and replace it and just select a particular line, we could go ahead and inject it, we could save it and publish it. So that's probably as far as I'll go with the demo. There's some more functionality, but we'll save that for a later video. All right, so let's start with some tips now, tips and tricks. Now, so I used the GitHub agent, the Copilot agent, and I basically was describing what I was asking for it to do, and it would go ahead and do things and basically start to write code. Now, what I would suggest though is you don't just get into this ad hoc conversation mode where you just ask it to do a bunch of things. Start off with a plan. And a plan, it sounds fancy, but it's really not. You just ask the agent to, number one, establish a plan before you start coding. So say, do not code until we have reached an agreement on what we want to build. So you can ask for it to go ahead and create a spec. Now the name of the file doesn't really matter, but this is our specification. So it outlines all of the things that we want our solution to do. You can include both functional and non-functional aspects, but this is kind of your source of truth. This is, your PRD, your product specification document. And this is a product requirement document. And this is basically, where you should always look as your source of truth and be able to go ahead and refer back to it. That way, if you want to pick this up, or you have a colleague that sort of picks up your solution and they go ahead and download it and they want to start updating it, this context will be invaluable. So I'm a big fan of using specs to go ahead and manage your solution. The next thing is keep a parking lot to keep your agent focused. So I knew when I was building this that there was a few things I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure that we were able to call MCP servers. I wanted to make sure that this could be deployed in the Foundry agent service. I wanted to make sure I could test it in the Foundry playground. And I wanted to have all these different capabilities. This is part of that whole planning exercise where you kind of tell the agent what you want it to focus on, and then what are things that we want to address in the future. So for example, I didn't initially think about memory. And as I started to do a little bit of debugging, I'm like, I need to have memory. So we discussed what are some options for memory. I said, add it to the parking lot. And then once we got to a specific state where I was happy with the current solution, then we went ahead and implemented the memory. And that's why you see these X's here, because it becomes a bit of a checklist. So do use a parking lot so that your agent can be focused on the immediate needs of the solution. Another thing that I find pretty important is just capture lessons learned and progress, and then summarize the areas that were challenging. So this is particularly difficult when you've got a lot of dependencies that are changing. So in this case, we're using different SDKs, and there's different options when you go ahead and build Foundry agents. I wanted to use the latest Microsoft Agent Framework, and you have a situation where you also have a model that was trained at a specific date, perhaps before some of these dependencies were even built. So how do you manage that? So this is just one of those things when you solve a problem, it's actually good to ask the agent to summarize how did you solve that problem and document it. And I found this useful just so if I need to go back in the future and add an MCP server, for example, to one of my Foundry agents, I have these cheat sheets. Now, things could be updated, and that's fine, but at least it's better from starting from scratch. The other thing that happened is my colleagues were working on some other vibe-coded solutions, and this allowed me to share my notes with them that helped accelerate their journey too. So these lessons learned are important when we're dealing with humans, but it's also very important when we're dealing with agents. Tips. Another, and this is related. So I mentioned that the models always have a date in which they were trained against, right? So it was current as of a particular date. You're going to have new sort of capabilities that are rolled out, and you want to be able to take advantage of those latest. And so using things like the Microsoft Learn MCP server is a good strategy, right? So you can actually go ahead and pull from that Microsoft Learn MCP server in order to help you like roll out new functionality. Also, these agents will typically have like a web search type functionality and the ability to go ahead and either consume or search GitHub as well. So maybe there's a GitHub sample that you want to use as a basis to get started. Well, you can tell the agent to go to this particular GitHub repo and build a sample based upon that repo. That becomes hugely valuable. You'll see the quality of your agent going up, and you will find your frustration levels coming down just because it's very, very good when it has an example to work off of. I've kind of touched on this a little bit, but like document the patterns that can be used for reference. So I mentioned a little bit about when you solve the MCP server stuff, document that so you can share it with your colleagues. But there's also, you might have your own samples, right? So you might have a specific way that you like to deal with, like try catch, for example, inside of Logic Apps, or exception handling. And you can basically have that as a pattern in your own library. And when it comes time to tell the agent to go implement that, it can do so with your standards in mind. Another example would also be your naming conventions. Maybe you got specific naming conventions. You can document those and then tell the agent to refer to them so that it can actually build with that context, which will save you time and also conform to your standards inside of your organization. So that's pretty important. Now, another tip is that there's shortcuts. Don't let your agent take shortcuts. It will take shortcuts. I think sometimes these agents are trained to be overly optimistic, and it really can lead you down a bad path. So for example, let me give you an example of this. So I added the Logic Apps MCP Server. I also added the Microsoft Learn MCP Server. All of a sudden, when my application was running, the model has an upper limit of 128 different tools that can be loaded at runtime. Well, somehow I was exceeding this number, and it made no sense. The Logic Apps MCP Server has roughly 40 tools, and I think the Microsoft Learn has just a few tools. And so, significantly under the 128. But for whatever reason, when it was running, there was code that was loading the Logic Apps MCP Server multiple times. And so we exceeded this 128. And so what the coding agent tried to do was like, okay, let me just remove the Microsoft Learn MCP tools, and that should get us under the 128 threshold. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not solving the root issue. The root issue is that we are loading up the MCP server for Logic Apps multiple times. That's what needs to be fixed. So if you just kind of blindly accept these recommendations, you can start to go down the wrong path. Another example was that when I was setting this up earlier, I needed to set up my Docker desktop, and that was not working properly, and that was leading to some local issues. So sure enough, my agent wanted to work around it. So it has started to come with these other ideas of how we cannot use Docker. And it was starting just to add more and more technical debt. And what I did have to do is like rewind, reset, and go back and actually work with the agent to figure out what is going on with my Docker desktop. And once we got that sorted, then we can move forward. So do just focus on solving root cause issues, because workarounds will compound and you will create a much bigger mess that is more difficult to unwind. And then tips, once again, back to that reset comment I just made, is that as you progressively make your way through your solution, you can go ahead and document it and say, okay, summarize where we're at. And I've created a folder where I've got like these sessions, like session 1, session 2, session 3, etc. And it kind of represents like where we're at in the overall process. That way, if you ever need to come back, you can give it a point in time to say like, hey, we were working up until this point. I want to go back to that point because like clearly what we're doing now isn't working. And so the other thing I would say is you do want to have these kind of baselines too, where, okay, I wanted to add MCP servers. I had some doubts about doing that. So I said, let's start with a simple MCP server example, Microsoft Learn, no authentication. Okay, so we were able to iteratively work through that. At this point, I was confident that the coding agent knew how to add MCP servers. I also just assumed that adding a server with OAuth is going to be more complicated. So then it's like, okay, figure out, how do I know, is it the MCP server's not working or is it the authentication not working, right? So you want to be able to isolate those situations, and that's where it's always good to progressively build, have these baselines, and then be able to go ahead and reset like as necessary if you start to head down the wrong path. Now, another thing is, challenge your agent, being able to ask, why did it do it that specific way? Like, so for example, back to the MCP server, when it, was wanting to remove the Microsoft Learn MCP server, I'm like, well, why did you do that? That doesn't make sense. We're not actually solving the problem. And, sometimes it might say, oh, like I can't do it, or why don't we do it this other way? Sometimes it's good to push on it to say, no, let's go this other way. I have a friend, John, who was telling me about a story where he's found some scenarios with Claude Code where if he wants to bet the agent that it can't do something, and that his wife is betting against it, that it almost always is able to successfully do what you want it to do. So sometimes I think adding some pressure is also not a bad thing to do when working with these coding agents. Now, another tip is just adding memory. So I think sometimes we take it for granted when we use these consumer-based services like ChatGPT, M365, Copilot, even Claude. And we kind of like just always assume it knows or has some previous context. Well, when you build your own agent, especially in Foundry, you're starting from scratch, you're using code, you don't have that built in. So this is something that you do want to think about and do want to add, because you are going to find it's hugely valuable. I started to do some testing and I'm like, wait a minute, like it's not even remembering things across the same session. Like if we're having a multi-turn conversation, it's asking me for things it should know, like that workflow context. And that's where I did go ahead and introduce memory. And so do think about that earlier and how you want to go ahead and solve that for that problem. And then, kind of touched on this a little bit, but just being more explicit here, review. Like understand what your agent is doing. You can sometimes get a little bit complacent when it's asking you for permissions to do something. It's like allow. And then you can kind of choose, okay, I want to allow for this specific like folder or this specific library. And you might be able to be tempted to say, oh, allow for this particular session. And then there's even YOLO mode, which will just accept everything. And I would just not recommend just blindly accepting everything, especially early on. It's different, I think, if you have guardrails in place and you've added more and more content to your spec, which it can use to sort of guide how it builds things. But I think it's better to pay attention, understand what it's trying to do, and don't assume anything. Like trust but verify. And then even better is like having another process that can review the work as well. So this is where you can get into those evaluator optimizer patterns. And here's like an example. So I was like, hey, I'm running into this issue. I had not changed any code. And sure enough, it starts writing code. And I'm like, wait a minute, I haven't changed anything and something's not working. Why are we writing code? And then, oh, sorry, you're right. If anything hasn't changed, let me go check elsewhere to see if there's an issue on the server. So that is just a good example of how this thing can go ahead and sort of choose its own path that doesn't always make the most sense. All right, so that concludes this video. I'd be curious, any tips that you have, please go ahead, put them in chat. Would love to hear about it. But do explore. This technology is wild. It is the future, whether you like it or not. And it is something where there's no way I would have built that app. I couldn't justify spending cycles to like learn all of that to go do it, but having some technical skills and having some ideas what I want to build, and then being able to use technology like GitHub Copilot and Claude models or whatever models you want to choose, OpenAI, just massively powerful and definitely something you should go explore and learn from. So thanks, and we'll catch you later.